Hi, this is Scott Votaw. I am the Assistant Vice Chancellor of the University System of Georgia. I oversee the Georgia Film Academy, and today I have as my guest my good friend Lee Thomas. Hi, Lee.
Hi, Scott.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So why don't you tell everybody what you do? Because you have a pretty amazing job here in Georgia.
Well, I am the director of the Georgia Film Office, and we are one tiny division of the Georgia Department of Economic Development, so we're a state agency. And our main job is to try to get film and television projects and the infrastructure that supports them into the state.
So you're the one that brought all these trucks in and for production that we see all over the state. So your office handles all of these folks that come in, because I'm sure they have to come somewhere, right? They talk to you first, right?
Usually they talk to us first, and we, at economic development, there's lots of different divisions. There's, tourism and Georgia Council for the Arts, but there's also global commerce, and that's typically the group that helps infrastructure locate. So if we get a project where they're looking for, putting a trucking company or putting a landscape company or anything like that, where they're looking for land or buildings, we engage them as well. So then they can talk to them about the job tax credits and the opportunity zones and all those kind of things that we don't really touch in film.
So speaking of tax incentive or tax credit, that's a big part of why industry is here. Would you think, was that the number one reason why industry is here? What do you think?
As far as film?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been at the film office for so long before tax credit. So, 96 when it was all location driven. But then when Canada started putting in place incentives to try to bring what had traditionally been a U.S. industry across the border, we started really losing our business. Panavision cameras shut their door, prop houses were closing, crew was either having to move to other markets or they were having to find other jobs. So we were really losing the business that, Jimmy Carter had put in place, started our office back in 73. So all that momentum was kind of seeping away. So, at one point we had a sales and use tax exemption in 2003. That didn't work for us. It worked a little bit, but it wasn't enough. 2005, another incentive was put in place, but again, it was a little convoluted. It was hard for producers to budget with. And so, we kind of got the bones of what we have now in 2008. And it's made all the difference. The decisions are no longer made by directors and producers as much as they are by the back of the house running, the budgets and seeing where their money's going to go furthest.
Yeah, so I just had spoken with Brian Livesey on a podcast, and he had mentioned that around the world, they ask him a lot, well, what kind of incentive should we have? And he says every time he goes, go to Georgia, look at theirs, put your name on it. That's the perfect incentive. So how do we get to the point where we got such a good incentive? Wasn't just somebody's idea, right? It was just a lot of work that went into.
It was a lot of work, a lot of groups lobbying.
Yeah.
Again, it was trial and error to some extent, in that we had one in 2005, and it was too hard to budget with. It was like a 9% plus a 3% for Georgia hires, and then a 3% depending on which county you were in, that changed every year. So you might be mid-year, and then the counties change, and the money you were getting in this county this time would switch up mid-year, and it was too squirrely. And so
I brought a film here back during those days, but I think we decided not even to work with the tax credit because it was like, do you understand how it works? I didn't understand how it worked. And so we just came and shot our movie and went back. And but we did it because of location. It was a great location.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So I think that's because I see once it changed, there was a big uptick in production, right?
It did. It went very quickly. We kind of weren't ready because I remember, I think the first one that we had that was a Tyler Perry movie. And so Lionsgate came in town, and they came to our office, and they probably had 50 or 60 questions they asked us, about how it worked and, the administration, and we knew virtually nothing. So it was a lot of like, we'll get back to you on that. So now, of course, it's been many, many years, and it's still, we still get questions about, very nuanced parts of the film, the film tax credit and, how revenue sees it and everything else. And we work really closely with revenue because a lot of it's on them.
What you're talking about is business. And this was one of the things that I'm pushing for with the Georgia Film Academy is, it's an art form, and, we create art or consumable entertainment, but it's a business. and it revolves around money.
Absolutely.
And so if everything aligns and the bottom line looks good, then the companies come to Georgia. So is that, I mean, it is a business.
Absolutely. It's definitely a business, and they are looking to see where their money's going to go the furthest. I would say that they don't take the money, the savings, and go back to wherever they came from, be it California or New York, or in some cases here. They are building that into the budget and spending that much more here.
Well, if you get more bang for the buck, then you get more on the distribution side.
Sure.
Because now you're putting money into the show to make it look better and to make the creative better or have a higher level star or actor in it. Now you're getting more return on your investment. So it's a win-win for all sides.
I agree, Scott.
So no, it's great. But tell me this. Let's go step back. What did you do before the film office? What was your job? Were you in the entertainment industry?
Well, I got an undergraduate at UGA in film, and then I got a master's at Georgia State in film, and then I went up to NYU in film as well, and I was up there for a bit, and I decided I wasn't sure I wanted to teach, so I was in the doctoral program there, and so I started working at the Brooklyn Arts Council, but I decided I really wanted to come back to Georgia. I missed it. And so I started.
You born here, raised
I was
here?
born and raised here.
Wow.
Yeah.
What area?
I was born in Buckhead. I live now in
Okay.
Candler Park. So yeah.
Wow, homegrown.
That's right. That's right. Piedmont Hospital.
So then you decided you missed Georgia and wanted to come back?
Yeah, and back then it was really, it was right before the Olympics, and there were not that many projects shooting here. You might get 3 or 4, maybe 5 projects a year, and we were about 2 crews deep. So we could,
Wow.
yeah. So
Just 2.
it was but it was very competitive because there wasn't a lot of projects. So it seemed risky to kind of go freelance and do that. And so I thought, well, a safe bet, maybe I'll try to work at the film office, which is what I did.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Well, I didn't realize you went to NYU. That's really cool. See, this is great for me because I get to know more about my friend. But because a lot of our students, they come in and they want to, work in this industry. Or a lot of young people, call us and reach out and want to know, what's the industry looking for here in Georgia? And
Sure.
it's like, yeah, there's a lot of production and we have quite a bit of crew, but there's still a lot of opportunities, right?
Absolutely. And I think, the nice thing is, you and I kind of have the same story in that we're Georgia born, and then we wanted to go into film, and we felt like we had to move to another market, right? It wasn't going to happen here.
I was 25 years in LA. Yeah.
Yeah. So now, it's so nice that, when you're talking to students now, it's like, should I go to New York or LA? It's like, no way. You stay right here.
Yeah,
there's more opportunities here.
I think absolutely. So my son was in San Diego working, and he was in the union out there. And he's climbed the ladder so much faster here. When I talked him into moving back here, he just took off. And so it's been great for a lot of folks here in the state, right?
Absolutely. And I think, not having enough crew after we passed the incentive, we had the challenge of stage space, of course, which that has been solved. And the other major problem was workforce, so I think that the 2 things that really moved the needle in Georgia were the creation of the film tax credit, and then the creation of the Georgia Film Academy.
Right. And, I was working in workforce training even before the Film Academy started, because I was with the technical college system.
That's right.
I think that's when we actually first met.
I think so, too.
And so to see it come this far, this is my 14th year in education, and to watch what has transpired it's transformative to the state. And you look at every car in the studio, and I'm saying like 90% have Georgia license plate.
I agree.
It's just so cool. A buddy of mine was just in New Mexico, and he said half the cars there had Georgia license plate, which means we're also exporting talent from Georgia to other markets. That's how good our people are.
I agree with that.
They're going to other, so that's really cool.
Yeah.
And so we've really set ourselves apart. And I think we still have some room for content creation, growth, and some areas like that, which will help even further cement. But so what's the future look like? We don't have I left my crystal ball at home, and I think I didn't ask you to bring yours. But a lot of people ask me, "What's next?
Yeah.
Where are we headed?" And it's like, I know it's a guess, but it's a pretty educated guess from your side. Where do you see us heading in the future?
I don't feel like it's all that educated, really. I feel like this has been an odd year.
Yeah.
We've had a couple of odd years. I mean, well, the pandemic was an odd year, and then we had a year of the strikes, and now we have kind of a year of, seeing what is happening with all these companies. There's a lot of disruption. I know that you know that, with the streaming companies and trying to figure out how they make a market. I mean, how they make a profit. And, it's kind of coming out of the pandemic when we had 93 projects going at once, it was sort of like everybody was trying to beef up with creating so much content because it was kind of a eat or be eaten world. And now it seems like it's really settled down, and it's, it's going to be interesting to see how it all, ends up. I mean, Chris Bagwell, who was here,
Yeah.
at Screen Gems and is now up running Silver Cup Studios in Brooklyn. I mean, he and I were texting this morning, and he was like, we're just, waiting to see what the new normal is, how this all settles out. So I don't know. I mean, I think that, for the time being, I think we're set for stage space. I think special effects houses are something we still need, post-production, and certainly content creation. I think that is, happening organically, not as quickly as we'd like, but it's happening.
Yeah. And that's part of our push. We're starting a new visual effects course that's going to be rolling out pretty soon. It's in development right now. We're putting in the new labs for training that. We'll be able to do training at our facilities as well as remote. So students from all over the state can just log in with their personal computers and take a visual effects class, which is exciting. We already have a partnership with Avid, so we're already doing, picture and sound design and editing. So we're kind of there, ready to fuel those industries as they come forward. Content creation, I feel that a big part for Georgians is the understanding it's a business, and I kind of keep going back to that. That's like my little flag I wave.
Sure.
But it's a business. My son's a dimmer tech. He runs a business. He goes from show to show to show, and he rents equipment.
Yeah.
And he has his crew that he brings with him. It's like a small business. And what can we help people understand that it's not just an artistic craft.
Well, you're right. It's a consortium of small businesses throughout the state that are working together and creating this stuff, but it absolutely is a business, I mean, hopefully at the end you get something beautiful and artistic out of it, but, getting there is not the prettiest thing always. But I'm very excited about, especially, y'all's remote learning. I mean, I'm actually a Rabun County resident, which, there are people that come down here, and get apartments together and drive trucks just because, the money's so much better. But, the idea that, these kids can, be at Rabun County High School and graduate and be able to stay there and work remotely in some of these industries is amazing.
There's a lot of remote work out there. And I think it's going to even be more. It doesn't matter where you live. So in Albany, or if you're in Valdosta, South Georgia, even, Brunswick, you're not stuck because even if there's not a studio down there,
that's right.
There's work.
I feel like that was, the best thing that came out of the pandemic is that it really kind of shook everything up, and people realized you do not have to be in LA, you do not have to be in New York. A lot of these people didn't see each other, in real life for, a couple of years, or were not going into the office, and I think that really helped us here.
Yeah, I think so. I think so too. So I think we're on a really good path from that standpoint. So what advice would you give to someone that's, maybe a student coming up, or somebody that wants to retool? Maybe they've had another career and it's just not really happy with that, and they see this as an opportunity to do something kind of unique and fun, and it's a good job. What would they need to know? What would you recommend that they not necessarily do, but what do they need to know so they can be successful? What is the film industry looking for?
I mean, it changes all the time. I mean, I think the great thing about what you're doing at the Film Academy is you're giving them an overview to know what's out there and kind of the broad stroke stuff, so they really know where they're best suited. I think sometimes you see people try something out and think that they would like this department, and it turns out, once they get in there, that was not for them, but there may be another department that they were very well suited to.
That was me in the electric department. I lasted 3 days. And I went, this is not for
This
me.
is not your job.
No,
Yeah.
I went back to working as assistant director. I was much happier in that environment. But what kind of soft skills do these people need to work in the industry? Are they demanding in that area?
Yeah, I mean, it's I've heard it described as a cross between a circus and the military, and I think that's true. I mean, I think you have to be there on time. I think you have to work hard. There's some hierarchies there, and I think you have to, make sure that you are, that you work hard in those departments. And I think, I've seen people, like you said, in Georgia, you have the opportunity to fly up the ranks, right? Like you may not in Los Angeles or New York. It's going to happen much more slowly. And I think that, just really concentrating on your craft and not, and trying to learn, because we do have, we still have these great people that have learned these, it's such a mentoring industry, right? That have really learned the way to do these things. And I think, not rushing through it, but really taking your time and learning these crafts is important, and it will be noticed.
Yeah, I spoke with a DP, and it's a lot of young people. They have the drive, they have the energy, they want to create something, they have that passion, but they don't know the craft yet.
Sure.
And they need to learn that craft, and that's the filmmaking process.
Right.
We always laugh at the GFA. We're not teaching you how to make movies. We're teaching you how movies are made, because you can monetize that one.
Right.
But it's harder if you just learn how to make a movie. It's like, okay, anybody can make something, throw it up on YouTube, but you get paid when you know the process and the craft of the area of filmmaking which you work in. And there's so many, right? Just about anything I can think of, there's probably a relational part.
Yeah,
In film,
absolutely. I agree. Yeah. I mean, it's such a broad bunch of services that are put together to make a film, But I do think that it takes a lot of drive, and I think that having realistic expectations. Of course, you always get people that are wanting to start out in the industry, and it's like, what do you want to do? And it's like, I'd like to be the director. It's like, yeah, sure. But there's, I say, people say, I want to be Will Packer. And I said, Will Packer, the way he started, he was like one of the best success stories, I think, who, came to this market. He and I came about the same time.
Yeah.
He thought he was going to work in film. And like I said, it was very competitive back then because there wasn't a lot of film. So he decided to raise $25,000 and make his own movies, and started four-walling them and building it up from there. But it's hard work. It takes a long time to become that person.
Takashi Dozier, who's a young man. I remember Takashi.
Yeah.
So he told me, he said, Scott, I work 10 months a year so that I can do what I love for 6 weeks.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What do you mean? He goes, well, it's work. I'd have to do a lot of work. And that's the business side of the craft that we're talking about. There's a lot of things he has to do so he can go on set and for 6 weeks do what he loves, which is direct a motion picture.
Right. Yeah.
And, that was really well said. And he's a young guy. I think he's in his late 20s or almost 30. Very talented young man from Georgia here. And it's hard. It is not easy, but he's committed to do what he loves, and he's willing to do what it takes to do what he loves.
Yeah.
And it's a sacrifice.
Sure.
So don't give up. I mean, that's what I'd always tell the kids. Don't give up. Just keep going. Keep churning.
Right. Keep doing the work.
That's right.
That's right.
What about, the other thing is, there's a lot of local businesses, Lee, that are going like, well, how do we get involved? And I think a lot of people don't know that your business can be film friendly. What does a business need to know if they want to, cater to the entertainment industry?
Yeah, I mean, we have a real crew database that you can put your information in on our website. If you just go to georgia.org/film, and you can, it's for crew people and also support services. Both are free. Some people, it makes sense for them to list in both.
Yeah.
But also when you're kind of, starting out, I think it's good to once you figure out what category your service or your company belongs in, go ahead and look at those top people in that category. If you're in the art department, go ahead and find those people that would be the decision makers. And I would, send them an email, ask them to, for some advice or coffee or something like that.
Right.
Reach out and just, or if nothing else, let them know about your services and say you'd love to work with them sometime.
Yeah, because if you don't talk to somebody, if you don't ask,
Right.
then the answer is no. I mean, you have to ask. If they say no, then okay, no harm, no foul. But
right.
you have to be a little proactive.
Sure. And you have to ask the right person, and you have to be available when they call and all that. It's such a, the nature of the industry is such a, they need it immediately, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes you see businesses that really, become the top of the film world in that area just because they are so accommodating, such great customer service, or so available and everything else. And I think that's critical.
Have you seen a lot of Georgia businesses like just explode because of the industry that came?
There's so many businesses that have sprouted up, just out of, necessity. But I think one of my favorite is, I don't know if Ben, who runs BI Production Works, but that story where he was, he was a kid whose parents were from India. They came here and ran a dry cleaning store, and he slept on the floor of the dry cleaning because they would dry clean all night long for film companies. It'd be like one of those things where you have period costumes, and they would drive them out to Madison, work all night, clean them, drive them back to set. After he got a little older and was the person driving him to set, he saw these big trucks, all of these honey wagons and vehicles that are used for the film industry, and figured out a way to start fabricating them. And I think now he has like 1,300 trucks. It's like such a great story, And
they're not, they were immigrants to this country.
Right.
But they're here in Georgia. They're hiring Georgians. They impact a huge community.
I think they're the top taxpayers in, Morgan County and Madison. I mean, they're, it's a big company, and they own, fast food restaurants and, BI Production Works. And, I know they're doing a lot in solar right now, too. So it's exciting.
It just shows how far the economic impact of this incentive goes. I mean, a lot of people see the production. They see maybe crew base. They see a little bit of stuff here and there. But they don't realize, it's more than hotel rooms and studios being rented and trucks and stuff. It's broader, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I met a guy one day, he came up to talk to me after I'd spoken somewhere, and he had, he'd wanted to be in the film industry. His background was in restaurant work, but he was trying to figure out how to get into it. So he started working as a PA on The Walking Dead, and then he decided to try to become a caterer.
Okay.
Fast forward 5 or 6 years, and now he has catering trucks that he buys in Gainesville, has them retrofitted in Waycross. There's all these farms, throughout the state, pecan farm in Griffin that he gets pecans from. All of these, there's a mushroom farm in East Point that he buys from. But he goes around to all these farms, and he spends on average per show that he's working on, he spends $5,000 a week per show on groceries at little grocers and farms throughout the state. Wow. And so it's a great story. You don't realize the impact, but, he's buying the trucks in Georgia. He's having them retrofitting in Georgia. All of these farmers are, helping him out. He rents a kitchen in Newton County and Covington to cook out of. And he's like, and I've got a bunch of
spread out. I didn't even realize it was that broad. That's crazy.
He's got a bunch of 20-somethings making $100,000 a year working in trucks. So it's a good story all the way around.
It is. Well, the industry in itself was a good story, and it's very powerful. The creative economy here in Georgia is growing. The impact is broad, and I want to say thank you, Lee, for all you do, because I know you and your team at your office do so much for the state of Georgia. I appreciate it. I want you to know we recognize it, and it's good to let everyone know. If you get a chance to, go to Lee's website, what was it again?
It's georgia.org/film.
Okay, very simple.
Yeah.
Go there, check it out. If you got a great location, there's opportunities there for you to, maybe get your property in a movie.
Sure, you can just put in, Google Georgia, list my property, and it'll pop right up.
That's
and
great.
Upload your home or warehouse or office, and we'd love to see it.
That's great. Well, Lee and I, we've got some stuff planned in the future, so I'm going to bring you back. We'll talk about it on another time. But thanks for joining me today. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Scott.
All right. Bye.
Bye.